The good news is yesterday there were protests literally from all over the nation. People saying, basically, hell no, we're not going to put up with this. But then, today it's gotten, there's a number of lawsuits, for example. And, this is kind of a good sign. So far, the government has not won any of these lawsuits, but Musk and his people are still inside these agencies. And even if they're forced out, there's a lawsuit this morning that's being heard, or that was, the hearing started at 11 o'clock Eastern time this morning. Even if they succeed, it's entirely possible that they have buried code in all of these government computer programs and systems that will allow them to remotely access them. So they don't need to have access to the buildings. I mean, keep in mind, So anyway, my op-ed today over at HartmannReport.com is titled "Last Chance to Stop a Dictatorship, and Trump Knows It." Trump wants FBI agents who investigated his coup attempt, his facilitating espionage, and his other financial and criminal activities fired. Let's be very clear. This is how dictatorships start. A guy who wants to become a dictator always begins by changing how the government works. Even though the majority of the nation says, hey, we kind of like the way things are. No. He says, I got a better way and it'll all work out. In the process, he breaks a bunch of laws, but people mostly don't do anything about it or even say anything about it because those laws don't directly affect them. Pastor Niemöller wrote about this in 1930s Germany. First, they came for the government workers. Then people start resisting, which is when he begins to use the police power of the state. The people who show up in the streets, the people who speak out in the media, the people who try to fight him in the legislatures and the courts. He figures out ways to get them fired, harassed, and ultimately imprisoned. When she was being confirmed, Attorney General Pam Bondi refused to say that she would not follow or execute an illegal order on Donald Trump's behalf. Like if he directed her to investigate somebody who irritated him or prosecute somebody who had investigated him or imprison somebody who had spoken out against him. We're there now. Pam Bondi just this morning announced that political prosecutions are about to begin, or at least the investigations leading to the prosecutions. At first, they're just going to be going after the police agencies themselves, mostly the FBI, as a way of bringing them to heel. Terrify the terrifiers. Next, it'll be the press. First, they'll use financial terror to force compliance. We're already seeing that with Trump's lawsuits against all three major networks and multiple newspapers. That will expand. Eventually, it's going to turn into shutdowns and arrests. He's going to remake our schools so they become indoctrination factories for his white male supremacist worldview and this new authoritarianism. He'll realign our democratic country away from our democratic allies and toward countries run by dictators like he aspires to become. He's going to purge the military of leadership that might resist him and of troops who might refuse his orders. He will remake our criminal justice system so it becomes more violent and brutal, opening prisons for the worst of the worst in places beyond the reach of the law, like Auschwitz in Poland or Guantanamo in Cuba. He will remake our media so it becomes a Greek chorus singing his praises and saying his every word. By proclaiming, as every dictator does, and as he did this morning at the National Prayer Breakfast, that divine providence and the blessings of God put him where he is, he's going to bring the country's largest religious institutions to heel. He'll proclaim grand plans and spectacular efforts, like building the Autobahn or remaking Gaza, Greenland, and Panama. They'll distract the public from the relentless grinding destruction of the guardrails of government itself. He and his allies will empower civilian militias who will then become his terror shock troops against the people who oppose him. Hitler had his brown shirts. Republicans in Nassau County, New York right now are trying to field America's first armed private militia, paid for by taxpayers' dollars. He will remake commerce and business so that the most successful companies are those that throw money and resources at him. Fritz Tyson wrote a book about this, about his shame facilitating it, titled I Paid Hitler. Someday perhaps Jeff Bezos or Tim Cook will write a similar book. America today is early in this process, although it doesn't typically take very long. It took Hitler 53 days. It took Putin about a year. It took Viktor Orban about 2 years. It took Pinochet less than a week, but he had the help of Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger. Trump and his Project 2025 friends, however, have been preparing for this for 4 years. They hit the ground running. This moment proves that the preservation of democracy requires constant attention and a collective commitment to uphold the integrity of its institutions. And right now, the only thing standing between democracy and dictatorship in America are public opinion, the media, and the Democratic Party. Republicans have completely caved, and the courts are moving too slowly to stop him. Elon Musk and Donald Trump seem to think they can pull this thing off in a matter of weeks. And so far, because of the cowardice of Republican legislators and the disorganization and lack of leadership among Democrats, they might be right. Unless we all stand up and speak out now. And that's what that's where I opened this thing. That yesterday there were protests in every part of the country. Here in Oregon, there were major protests in downtown Portland and in downtown Salem, which is our state capital. It's also a college town down the road. Big protests all over the country. Democratic politicians are starting to speak out. My two senators are, Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley are particularly outspoken. We've got some good progressives in Congress. But the Democratic Party needs to get their act together, and they need to get their act together soon.